Welcome back to the Alpha Girl Soccer Podcast Show. My guest today is a former college soccer player, current strength and conditioning coach, an awesome writer, and I would say one of the most influential people in the strength and conditioning world for soccer players, specifically Erica Suter. Erica, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I'm so pumped for this podcast.
Yeah, me too. So actually, I have been wanting to ask you to come on for a long time. But I think I've been slightly intimidated. I'm like, okay, I got to wait until I get better at this whole interview thing. So I guess I just feel better or I am better. I don't know. But I was like, I just need to ask her to come on because I feel like you have so much value to add. So I think all the listeners will really appreciate you and your advice and your expertise.
Oh, it's so funny you say that because I've listened to your podcast for several months and I was like, man, I kind of want to go on because she sounds so cool and I just love talking to other female coaches. So it's you must have read my mind.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So before we get started and get to know you and everything, I just started doing this thing where I want to ask a few fun little warm-up questions just to make it nice and loose. So the first one is, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
Oh, wow. Well, I would say Brazil because I have lived there before and the culture is just so laid back, and obviously they're a big soccer country and the environment's really pretty, and yeah, the people are just so great down there. It's a different vibe and a lot of fun.
That's awesome. I've never been there, but I can imagine it's good food, right? Pretty good food.
Yeah, really good food. You can eat really healthy or really bad.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of true for anywhere, but that's cool. Okay, and then number 2, if you could hang out with one celebrity for a full day, who would it be?
Oh gosh, well, I'm on a soccer podcast, so I'm not going to say a soccer player.
You can if you want.
Yeah. Gosh, this is gonna sound really off the beaten path, but I'm going to say Gigi Hadid only because I love the fashion industry and it's a weird secret about me, and it just seems really cool. And yeah, that's
honestly, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, she's a supermodel, so.
Okay, I was like, oh, sorry, I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
We'll go with it. All right, and then last one, hardest one. Well, for most, it's the hardest one. Is, if you could describe your life in a song, what song would you pick?
Gosh, that is a really hard one.
It is. I hate song questions.
Yeah.
Or a song that embodies you and your vibe and what you're about. Or one that you just
I got
love.
one. I would definitely say Beyonce, Flawless, because
there you go.
It's all about women's empowerment and just accepting yourself and loving who you are. So that's a really
perfect,
empowering song.
There we go. Anything Beyonce is good for me. Nice. So tell our listeners and me, because I don't know a ton about you. I mean, I know your social media life, but tell our listeners a little bit more about you and what you're all about.
Sure. So I am a soccer strength and conditioning coach based in Baltimore, Maryland, and I've been doing this for almost 8 years. And I work with athletes on the youth side, so starting with elementary schoolers and going all the way through college. But my main focus is the younger ages. I still have a few college athletes, but those are the girls who have started with me from the beginning when they were 10 years old. So now people who start with me are mainly elementary and middle school athletes, which is really the best age to get kids at in terms of long-term development. So I'm really pumped. I'm able to set kids up and help them physically and just stay healthy and also improve their performance simultaneously. So it's been a really great experience. I'm excited to go to work every day, and I have some great athletes, and it's been a really rewarding career for me.
What part of your like career, what would you say your favorite part is? Like, what do you enjoy most about it?
Oh, so many things. The first thing that comes to mind is just seeing how much kids can grow. Obviously, physically, a lot of the stuff I do is based on developing speed and agility. Strength has been a big one, especially for the female athletes, and showing them what they're capable of. So it's cool to see the physical changes and all the science behind it. But now that I've been doing this for a while, it's more about the human component and really connecting with the kids and building a culture and just having good relationships, and not only getting them ready to play soccer, but making sure they're good students or they're good friends, they're good people,
Mhm.
because that's what's going to last a lifetime. And anyone can go on to play college or professional, but it's a small percentage. So this is really about the human component
Mhm.
if we really peel back the layers.
Yeah, I love that. And that's one thing that I love about your stuff is it's just like you're all about connection and just like, the kids having a good time and staying in the sport and, just loving it, which is what I'm about too.
Yeah.
So like what age, so let's get into like the strength and conditioning stuff a little bit. Like what age would you like recommend that an athlete starts like either working with you or doing some sort of like strength and conditioning type work?
Yeah, so I would say as soon as possible, but not necessarily working with a coach. But if we're talking about the elementary schoolers, so anytime a kid starts walking or able to move and make a way around their environment, they should start. So this could be going on a playground, climbing trees, jumping from trees, doing capture the flag in the neighborhood, dodgeball, tackle football. Those are all forms of body weight strength training and
Hmm.
plyometrics for the younger kids. So I urge them to start as soon as possible, especially because organized sports are starting to replace all of that.
Yeah,
And I'm sure you
totally.
can speak to that where you're located and all over the country, but there's just not as much free play anymore, and exploring the playground and falling down and getting up and working on all components of coordination. So as soon as kids can like get outside and do that stuff, I urge them to do it. And that
Hmm.
it does start with the parents too, and the environment they're in. But it's funny because with like my 7 to 9 year olds, it's crazy because I shouldn't even exist.
Right.
We're in the gym and we're doing stuff that they would do on a playground, but like since they don't really get exposed to that anymore, it's it's my job to put them in that environment. But then as far as like middle school, I would say they start working with a strength coach, just
Mhm.
because it becomes more about developing coordination and opposite arm, opposite leg mechanics, landing mechanics, how to get in like a proper stance for like change of direction. So
Mhm.
more of like the coaching and detail needs to happen there. And then, so that would be like anywhere from age like 11 to 13 is a
Yeah.
good time to start. And then high school, like I hope by that time like kids have had a strength coach and enough activity, because it's really hard to teach all of that to a 14, 15-year-old kid for the first time.
Right. So would you say like high school or middle school is the age where you start like actually getting them using dumbbells, kettlebells, barbells, whatever it is?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we have our middle schoolers lifting weights. So
Mhm.
they'll be deadlifting, they'll be doing squats and different lunge variations, but this is once they've mastered those movements first with their body weight, and
Yeah.
they can prove to me they have the coordination and balance to start adding load.
Yeah. And have you noticed, or like from your experience, I feel like so many parents and maybe coaches kind of forget about the whole coordination piece. And do you kind of feel that way as well?
Yeah, it's crazy because a lot of high schoolers come into the facility and they've never strength trained, or they might be early specializing, and not getting other activity outside of their primary sport. And those are the athletes that come to me, and they're the most uncoordinated.
Yeah.
So that's why that free play is extremely important.
So let's see if I'm understanding this correctly. So if we had to like break this down into like phases, like phase one is like coordination, balance, movement type stuff, right? And then phase two would be more of like strength.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then like, so let's get into like why, because I feel like a lot of athletes in general, but especially female athletes, the athletes and the parents, like they don't do strength training. And obviously it's because they don't understand the benefits of it. So like, why is strength training so important specifically for female athletes?
Yeah, so strength training is obviously, it's going to improve speed, production, efficiency, and changing direction. It's going to work on any muscle asymmetry. So if athletes are maybe favoring one side of their body, or they have an imbalance, it's going to clean that all up so they're not compensating and getting overuse injuries. And then from like a female athlete perspective, I know like a lot of girls listening maybe they've had an ACL injury or know someone who has, and the ACL injuries normally happen when athletes cannot handle or absorb force. So the stronger they are, the more resilient they are, they're able to handle the heavy forces in the game when they're cutting or changing direction or decelerating.
Yeah, so injury is obviously a huge one. Like I had three ACL, well, one ACL, but three knee surgeries. And I mean, I took like a weight training class in high school, but like I didn't really learn how to lift or how to do basic like deadlifting movements until I was in college.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's probably true for a lot of athletes. So I might be jumping ahead a little bit, but like where can a let's say a middle school athlete, like where should they start with learning how to move properly and just getting stronger and more resilient?
Mm-hmm. So with the middle school athletes, the first thing I like to start with is making sure they can balance. So just static balance, or like doing like hopping, some more dynamic balance, because that is a component of coordination. Crawling is a big one, and being able to simultaneously move the opposite arm and leg, because that's how runners are efficient, and that's how you make your sprinting more efficient, and you're using less energy to run fast.
Right.
You have that opposite arm and leg coordination. So yeah, crawling's a big one. And then just like moving or resisting against body weight. So we'll do push-ups with youth athletes, pull-ups, whether that's body weight or with the assistance band, and different lunges, so single leg strength. And then like once they nailed these down over several months or a year, then we start to go into like really developing some strength.
So notice, like you said, it's a whole year before, right? You jump from like a lot of people, it's probably like, all right, I've been doing this for like a week. I think I'm ready to deadlift my body weight. Right.
Right.
But I think it's just like the process takes so much longer than people think, or longer than they want it to take.
Yeah, it's yeah, long-term athletic development is a real thing. And anyone who's listening, whether it's a coach or a parent or a strength coach, we have to remember we're working with a lot of kids who are just hitting puberty and they're maturing. So we have to treat their bodies with care and just make sure we're progressing them when they're ready, and not what their neighbor's doing or their teammates doing, because everyone is going to be at a different level. I have some middle school girls who are deadlifting over 100 pounds, and I have some who are still learning with their body weight how to hinge at their hip. So that's why at that age it's critical to find a strength coach who knows what to look for, and there's some really good ones out there.
That leads me into my next question. So like so let's say a parent is interested in getting a strength coach. like there's a lot of with the fitness industry, there's a lot of good stuff and there's a lot of bad stuff. Like how does a parent go about finding like a legit strength coach that is going to focus on long-term athletic development?
That's such a good question. And it reminds me, I was going to start writing an article on like questions parents can ask. So thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, we'll get you started on that.
Yeah. So right off the bat, I mean, they have to be certified. They have to have their education in exercise science. They have to have their CSCS, which is their strength coach certification. And beyond that, just asking what age group do they work with,
Okay.
and how many kids have they've trained, and how many years too. But sometimes like strength coaches have been training for 5 years and they haven't trained that many kids. So I think asking how many is good. And then I mean, I've been asked some pretty tough questions, and I think it's good parents ask that. Because, like, I had a mom the other week ask, like, hey, like, how do you, like, quantify results? How do I know, like, my daughter's getting faster?
Mm-hmm.
And I came back with, well, we track their acceleration every week with, like, 10-yard, 20-yard dash. But, like, that's, like, a question that a strength coach needs to answer with excitement, and they have to know what they're doing. So it's fair to ask, like, those questions, or, like, how do you customize your program, or how do you work around in-season athletes? Their parents should really like interrogate strength coaches.
Yeah, I mean, they should. And so you haven't written this article yet, you said?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, when you do, let me know and I'm going to share it with everybody.
I definitely will. And the one problem we have here in Maryland is parents will go by price.
Yeah.
So, and that's really scary. Like they'll just do like price comparisons, and like some coaches will charge like $10 a kid. And like, you know, I'm on the higher end of that, but like people, they don't know what the difference is because they're just looking at the price.
Yeah.
So honestly, like people hate to hear this, but you really get what you pay for. Like
Absolutely.
you really do. Like if you want quality customized programming, it's going to be on the higher end. So parents definitely need to take that into account.
Would you advise parents to kind of stay away from any kind of like group strength training programs?
No. So I encourage it, and that's most of what I do. But I don't have more than 8 to 10 in a group.
Yeah.
So for the most part, the kids are on their own program and they get their own packets and they're tracking their load. So everyone's doing a different weight than their neighbor. But the best part about it is they get to make new friends. During our speed and agility drills, they get to compete against each other.
Yeah.
I think the last thing a 12-year-old wants to do is like have me stare at them during like a really hard conditioning drill, and it's just us two. So
yeah,
I really do encourage the group training for the competitive atmosphere and to really up the intensity. But again, like it doesn't mean you can't individualize a strength program.
Yeah. So I mean, groups are good, but as long as they're still like individualized to that player.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And then, so what is like, if a parent certifications, there's a lot of certifications, like there's like there's a bunch like that are just personal training certifications. Like, is that something that you would consider like legitimate, or would you just stay more along the lines of like just a strength and conditioning certification?
Yeah, I mean, if they're looking for soccer performance training, most of these people eventually get their strength coach cert. So they want to train athletes. They want to specialize in training athletes. That isn't to say there aren't some great coaches with just regular training certs, because I do know a few. So I don't want to tell parents to weed those people out because they have years of experience, or maybe their degrees in exercise science, but eventually like those people move towards getting their CSCS or more performance certification.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So what would you say is like the number one problem that you see with female athletes regarding like their physical performance?
They're not doing strength training. And it just goes beyond like lifting weights, but just doing a well-rounded strength and conditioning program that teaches them how to change direction without blowing a knee, or how to accelerate without putting load on their patellar tendon and getting overuse. So there's so many pieces to keeping female athletes healthy beyond just the weight room. There's a lot of like mechanics and running stuff involved as well. And um, yeah, it blows my mind that people still don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know a lot of girls across the country who don't do it year round, and it's no wonder like the ACL epidemic's just getting worse. And
Yeah.
it's scary because soccer is year round now, and it's like, how are girls able to handle that if they're not strong enough, or if they're not optimizing their recovery with a strength and conditioning coach?
Yeah, I mean, I just, like you said, I don't know why it still hasn't like caught up yet, but it's seriously up there with like, instead of thinking about getting your kid private training, like if you can do one or the other, I would almost say in some instances, getting a strength coach is more important than getting your kid extra technical training, which is what I do.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. And I'm a
right?
technical coach too. It's crazy.
Yeah. But it's just like, it's crazy because it really is so important. Like, why do you think that when you go to college, that's like a huge part of your training is strength training,
Mm-hmm.
which I think you're doing a great job of educating parents and coaches on the importance of it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still like a big learning curve for parents and stuff like that. So with that being said, like, what would you say the biggest myths are or biggest like misconceptions when it comes to like strength and conditioning for youth athletes?
Mm-hmm. The biggest one I've been hearing in the past couple years, just because soccer is so crazy year round, like there's so many games, is we don't want to do extra training because it's going to make
Mm.
our kid more sore.
Yeah.
And it makes sense to, like, because parents, they just see, oh, another thing on the schedule, like this is going to crush them. But
Yeah.
if they have a strength coach who knows how to do periodization and kind of like oscillate the load. So some weeks they might be going heavier. Some weeks they might be doing like lower rep because they have too many games going on. So they're not sore, and they might just be going to the gym to recover, or maybe hammer their upper body and core. So just being able to like hire someone who understands and who's able to communicate with the players what they need and what their schedules are and adapt to that. But I think parents think it's going to, like, weight training is going to constantly make their kids sore, which is not the truth at all.
Yeah. And talk a little bit more about periodization, because I think most like people like, what is that? So explain it to a parent or a player, like why is that important to have a coach that understands that?
Mm-hmm. So periodization is just a fancy or nerdy way of saying I'm changing the sets and reps each week or every couple weeks on certain exercises, so athletes can adapt to the exercise. So maybe they're going through a phase where they're really building their muscle up, or they're going through a phase where they're just doing power exercises, which are like lower rep. So yeah, it's just really how the athlete is adapting to an exercise, and it's tweaked by sets, reps, work time, rest time.
And based off also like the season that the player's in too, right?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Yeah. So let's talk about a little bit about speed, speed and agility, stuff like that, because that's also like people have huge misconceptions when it comes to that kind of stuff. So like, okay, can a player get faster, or like how much of it is like, yes, they can get faster, and how much of it is like genetic, like you're kind of stuck where you are?
Okay, yeah, this is an awesome question. And yeah, it makes sense because a lot of people for many years have said speed is genetic. And for some people it is. Some people, they're just naturally fast. Like adding like a little bit extra training is just going to make them a little bit faster and optimize that potential,
Mhm.
which is great. So yes, you can get it better whether you're blessed with good genetics or you're not and you're slow. And yeah, absolutely. Like your gains are going to be so much greater than someone who's gifted with speed.
Gotcha.
But it's going to take a several months, several years of strength training, power training, so your explosive work, and just really learning the mechanics of acceleration and full speed sprinting and change of direction, because speed and acceleration are skills. So the mechanics have to be taught. And I like to compare it to soccer skills. Like you can get better at your soccer skills. You learn how
Mhm.
to shoot, you learn how to strike the ball, what part of the foot. Same with speed. You learn how to drive your knees, use your arms, recruit your muscles. It's all a skill.
So when you're training players to work on their speed, do you kind of start like with strength? Do you work on mechanics and then you go into like power? Like how does kind of the process work?
So, yeah, that's another great question. So this is kind of funny. Right now, we're on week 9 of off season. So we've been strength training 2 to 3 times a week for the past 9 weeks.
Mhm.
But as far as the running, we have only addressed acceleration. Like that's all we've accomplished that in 9 weeks. So the next 9 weeks is going to be sprinting. So if that gives people an idea of how much time this stuff takes, and you have to really break it down into detail. It's a lot of muscle memory and skill acquisition. So yeah, we're doing strength and acceleration and speed for the full length of off season, but I like to divide acceleration and speed sometimes, so we're really like dialing in our focus.
Yeah, and you spoke to this, like it takes a long time to get faster, right? And I'm sure you get this question all the time from parents and players, like, how do I get faster? So like, what are some things that a player can do? Let's say they're just on their own. Like what kind of things should they be focusing on? Let's say they've never really done any kind of speed training before, but they just want to get faster. Like what are some things they can do at home or on the track or whatever it is?
Yeah, so number one, make sure you're sprinting. And you're training your nervous system, maximal speeds, so over 30 meters of running. So this could be done 2 times a week. Make sure you're learning acceleration and taking a long and strong step. So I really like hill sprints for acceleration, and really doing proper work to rest times. So if you want to train speed and you're doing maybe like a 40-yard sprint, you need to be resting for a couple minutes
Yep.
so that you can go full speed for every rep. So those are just like some quick starting tips, and then just making sure you have fuel for all that. So your fuel is going to be your strength training, getting your glutes, your hamstrings, your quads stronger. So all the primary muscles involved in sprinting fast, and then your core and your upper body as well as far as the arm action. So
Mhm.
I really like pull-ups for
Yeah.
posterior chain strength,
Yeah.
deadlift for glutes. So those are the quickest tips I can give.
No, that's good because I want it to be simple because I feel like people try to overcomplicate just about everything there is to overcomplicate, right? Like, oh, I need all these tools to get faster. I need to go buy this. I need to go buy this. Like, no, go find a hill and just sprint, right? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't need to be this fancy thing. And then, like you said, with like speed training, you're training speed. So you're not like trying to kill yourself and not
Yeah.
give yourself any rest, right? That would become more conditioning, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's like when you speed train, give yourself plenty of rest. So each time you can go 100%. Um, and when is it good to like, so say players, say it's off season, right? Is it good to work on speed one day, conditioning the next day, strength training the next day? Is it good to kind of combine all of those?
Yeah, definitely. So to give everyone an idea of what we've been doing this winter off season in Maryland is we'll do Monday is strength training and a change of direction day. And then Wednesday is strength training again with linear sprinting day. And then Friday is going to be recovery. And then Saturday, we're doing like a hybrid strength and then like linear change of direction.
Okay.
But this could all change based on futsal schedules and ID camp. So I don't try to, I want to stick to one template, but it, like those days might like be flipped around depending on games. Like Monday might end up being a recovery day instead of a change of direction and really getting everyone's sore day.
Right.
So
And I want to point out, you didn't say an off day, you said a recovery day, which is a difference. So talk to us about like, what is a recovery day and why is it good to have a recovery day and not just like a let's watch Netflix all day kind of day?
Mm-hmm. So it's good to just flush the I don't want to say crap, but the waste out of everyone's muscles and just to work on asymmetries and get them functioning again. So we'll do some dynamic stretching and some foam rolling, some like meditation just to calm their nervous systems. And this is stuff like they have to come to the gym for because most of these kids are not going to do it on their own. So so they come to the gym and we do all that stuff, and sometimes like a recovery day might also be doing some upper body work because we can, but we're doing like more like stretching and mobility of the lower half of the body.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. And then like, so as far as recovery tools go, how important is foam rolling, even if just for like soreness after a soccer game? Like, would you recommend that players have some sort of foam roller or something like that to help them recover?
Yeah, definitely. I was talking to a physical therapist who works with soccer players, and I asked him if foam rolling was beneficial, and he said, yes, it's going to make players feel better. It might like get some of the soreness out of their muscles, but it's almost like the icing on the recovery cake. And the cake to recovery is good nutrition, hydration, and sleep. And he said, you don't need to do all these crazy recovery methods like cryotherapy, acupuncture. You know, there's so much
Yeah.
out there. He said, just get sleep and eat well and hydrate. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. So foam rolling's good, but everything else needs to be dialed in too.
Yeah, and I think we forget about the little everyday things. Like I think I wrote about it in my newsletter, had it on the podcast. Like the most important thing to prevent injuries is sleep, nutrition, hydration, right? Like just taking care of the little everyday things. So let's say I want to leave like the listeners with a few like concrete things they can do. Like where can a player start? How can they find a conditioning coach? Like what are the steps that they can take to kind of get started in the whole like strength coach, speed training type deal?
Oh man. I mean, the best place I would say right now is Twitter. Just because you might agree with me on this, but it's just I feel there's more professionals on there wanting to share their them coaching or their drills, but there's also a lot of researchers as well, which I like a lot. There's researchers and practitioners, and I think Twitter's just a really good place to find people. And if you don't find someone in your area, I've had people reach out to me asking, hey, do you know anyone in this state? And I actually do. Yeah. So people can always ask me or you or other strength coaches. So I would say start on Twitter, because Instagram is like, I don't know, like, like in the performance world, there's just a lot. Like
there's too much noise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with the Twitter thing. Like I was kind of on I don't know, I took like a break from Twitter for a while, but now I'm back on and I'm like, man, Twitter's like so much better for like education and just, it's more real than Instagram. Instagram, there's just a lot of like crap.
Yeah, I'm glad you're back. Like It's more professional, I think.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, starting there would be good. There's a lot of parents on Twitter too, which I think is great because they're on there asking questions and they're asking really good questions. So
Yeah. And there are like, do you do online training as well? Like online programming?
yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay. So that's also like, would you recommend online programming or training from like a super like newbie, or would you suggest that they get an in-person strength coach first?
It really depends on the athlete. So I would need it to be an athlete who is going to really engage in the process. Like it's almost like we're working together in person. So I have a couple girls right now. I have two 8th grade girls out of state and they were fairly new. So first thing is, hey, you guys need to submit your videos. And
Yeah.
then you also need to show up to every biweekly phone call
Mhm.
video. And as far as the programming, like I'm very cautious with newbie online clients. Like it's all so basic and so body weight for like several months just because I'm scared. It's like, just want to make sure they like really get it down. And then like we start progressing.
Okay.
And I've been so fortunate that some of them are pretty close, like on the East Coast, and they visit me quarterly in person,
Oh,
which is
nice.
really awesome. So yeah, it's been really fun.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess if they can find a local strength coach that's good, do that first.
Yes.
And if not, then find a good online coach like yourself.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So last big question for you. If you could leave our listeners with your most important piece of advice for them to be successful in their sport, in life, whatever it is, what would you leave us with?
This is going to sound really profound and also kind of cliche, but you have to have fun. Like it's it's so easy to get caught up in how serious this all is and the youth sports world and it is serious because we're all competitive and we want to do well, but we can't get better at what we're doing unless we have a joy for it or we look forward to what we're doing. And it doesn't, I always tell my athletes, like, if you tell me that thing isn't soccer, I'm not going to be mad. Like, if you would find more joy in doing like band or like drama or something else, like, I'm totally okay with that. Just figure out what that is and go with it.
Yeah,
You
I
just
love that.
gotta have fun.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have fun, like you said, like you're not going to keep doing it and you're not going to be totally invested in it. So like, why do it in the first place? So that's good advice for anybody, even me. Like sometimes I'm like, you just got to have a little bit more fun with it, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So I love that. So thank you for sharing that. So where can people connect with you and learn more about you, even like work with you? Where's the best place for them to find you and reach out to you?
So I'm on Twitter at Fit Soccer Queen and also Instagram Fit Soccer Queen, and my website is ericasuter.com.
And guys, she has like the best, like you have so much great free content on your stuff as well. Like I am always looking at like I have, like you can save videos on Instagram, right? Pretty much all my saved videos are from you doing like speed drills. And I'm like, I implement them in my training. So I love everything you do. So if you're looking to get stronger, faster, whatever, like go check out her Twitter, her Instagram, because you'll find some awesome stuff that you can do on your own there, and just get a good idea of what a good strength coach is and is not. But yeah,
I appreciate that.
yeah, like thank you for putting so much great stuff out there.
Thank you. I have fun with it. And if anyone has questions on soccer performance, chances are I've written about it or posted. So just do the search on the blog and you'll probably get your answer.
Yes, the blog too, like her blog, go to her website. Her blog is awesome for parents, coaches, players. I read them all the time and I'm like, gosh, this is so good.
Oh, yes.
So it's just awesome. Like she has amazing content. So please go check it out. And if you enjoyed this episode, leave us a review and you can also watch it on YouTube. So you can head over there. But thanks for listening and I'll catch you on next week's episode.